I said in my last review that the kaiju genre was put on a hiatus, well, except for a few independent movies that came along the way in the late 2000s. And I did say at the end of my last review that two movies reignited the monster genre. Here's one of the two. Welcome to another episode of the Brumakian podcast, a review series where I can review anything but not everything. That includes monster movies, both big and small, anime, and video games. I'm Demetrius, and this is my review of Pacific Rim. A little background to start us off. Guillermo del Toro was a very young director. At first, he was supposed to direct a fantasy screenplay by Travis Beacham called Killing on Carnival Row in February of 2006. However, that never came to be. In 2007, it was Beacham who came up with the concept of this film that I'm reviewing. It came about when he was walking near the Santa Monica Pier, which is in Los Angeles, where he had imagined what a giant robot and a giant monster fighting to the death would look like. He stated, "It just sort of materialized out of the fog, those vast, godlike things." He later on convinced the idea of not one, but two pilots controlling a robot with the idea of what happens when one of those people die and the survivor has to deal with the survivor's guilt. For those who don't know, survivor's guilt is a particular kind of guilt that develops in people who have survived a life-threatening situation. The more you know. On May 28, 2010, Legendary Pictures, founded by Thomas Tull, Scott Mednick, and William Fay in 2000, was reported to have purchased Beacham's treatment. But what of Del Toro? Well, Del Toro was next to direct an adaptation of Howard Phillips Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness. Lovecraft was famous for his Cthulhu mythos. But that film was going to be for Universal Studios, with James Cameron producing it. It was when he met with Legendary Pictures, and Warner Brothers for that matter, that he would strike a deal with directing this project, while directing Universal's film. However, he would only do it unless At the Mountains of Madness was cancelled. This was because on March 7, 2011, Del Toro didn't want to compromise on a $150 million budget for a rated R film. As a result, Universal threw the film into a trash can. Del Toro would later state, "When it happened, this has never happened to me, but I actually cried that weekend a lot. I don't want to sound like a puny human, but I really was devastated. I was weeping for the film." But there was a bright spot. He was allowed to direct this project. Filming began on November 14th of that year and continued on into April of 2012. Del Toro was a massive fan of kaiju films, not just Godzilla, but Gamera and especially War of the Gargantuas. But he instructed his creature designers to not turn to those films as inspiration. "I didn't want to be postmodern or referential or just belong to a genre," Del Toro stated. "I really want to create something new, something madly in love with those things. I tried to bring epic beauty to it, and drama and operatic grandeur. The inspiration was to be drawn by works of art, like the Colossus and George Bellows' boxy paintings." As for casting, Charlie Hunnam, Idris Elba, Renko Kikuchi, Charlie Day, Rob Kaczynski, Max Martini, and Ron Perlman were hired to play the respective roles. And for the music, Raymond, I'm not even going to pronounce that last name, sorry about that, is chosen to be the composer. The end result was Pacific Rim, released in July of 2013. And here is its plot synopsis according to Google. Omega, if you please.
Long ago, legions of monstrous creatures called kaiju arose from the sea, bringing with them all-consuming war. To fight the kaiju, mankind developed giant robots called Jaegers, designed to be piloted by two humans locked together in a neural bridge. However, even the Jaegers are not enough to defeat the kaiju, and humanity is on the verge of defeat. Mankind's last hope now lies with a washed-up ex-pilot, an untested trainee and an old, obsolete Jaeger, named Gypsy Danger.
Hey, obsolete or not, you better get the job done.
Agreed.
you know what it reminds me of, even though I'm not a fan of this IP? Ultraman, and to an extent, Gundam. And that is a compliment. I really enjoyed this film. I do like the uniqueness of it and the idea of a double-piloted Jaeger. And I like that even though it has a major flaw, if one drifts off or gets caught up in one's memory, then we get a massive mess. And it is showcased really well. The story overall is well paced and well told. Most of the characters I find are very charming, each with very distinct personalities that I can easily recognize. The research duo are the goofiest of the bunch, and I sort of develop a soft spot for them. I said for the most part because I'm not gonna lie, the Aussie dickhead, yeah, not my cup of tea. The designs of the Jaegers are really good and distinct, not just in design, but in fighting style. Same goes to the kaiju themselves. I don't know why, but Leatherback sticks out to me. And the visual effects on them are superb. Actually, now that I mention it, the cinematography is so good. The seamless transitions are golden and the color palette really pops out. I watched this on my 4K HDR TV and it is gorgeous to look at. The music is also really good, but I can't remember any other track aside from the main theme and 2,500 tons of awesome for the life of me. Anyhow, Pacific Rim overall is once again an enjoyable film. There are a few flaws here, sure, but it didn't hurt my enjoyment in the slightest. And the less we mention about the sequel, the better. But, dear viewer, despite this film becoming another entry to the giant monster genre, it did not bring people so much interest in the whole giant monster or kaiju genre. Of course, the king of kaiju had a film in which it suddenly got people's attention. And wouldn't you know it, it was made right here in the United States of America. Wait a minute. Before you go, there is something that you need to know about. If you haven't seen what I posted in the community tab, don't worry, because this is what you're going to get at the end of the month and what is going to happen for the rest of the month. And it's nothing but content.
Suzume, I like you. Lots. You're in the way. Goodbye.
And now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
This has been Demetrius signing off. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and have a good day.